Good evening, everybody. I am Abir Shinawi.
And I'm Doug Handy, and welcome to Real Talk, Our Space. Today, our show is entitled Sikh Americans, Freedom to Practice Without Fear.
Mm-hmm. So for me, it's been a passion for quite some time as an educator to discuss the history of Sikh Americans in our country, but also their rich culture and their religion as well. And so it's been a mission of mine for a couple of years now. And we also in our county have a large Sikh population and our students. So it'd be really nice to see how we can have them involved and have other people understand their history. What about you, Doug?
So for me, this is really a learning experience. I know very little about the Sikh faith, never had any dialogue with anyone of the Sikh faith. So today I'm really excited to interact with our guests, as I am about all our guests. But today I'm definitely ready to learn. So an hour from now, I'm going to know so much more than what I know now, which is really very little. The only thing I know some people do confuse the Sikh faith with the with Islam or the Muslim faith. And I do know that those are not one and the same. Other than that, I'm ready to learn everything our guests can share with us. So I'm really excited about that.
Love it.
And to help us learn, we have two guests with us.
Yes.
Our first guest is Rubin Singh. He's a board member of the Sikh Coalition and founder of OneTenth Consulting.
Yes.
Our second guest is Karanveer Singh Pannu. He's a Voorhees zoning board member from New Jersey and author of Bullying of Sikh American Children Through the Eyes of a Sikh American High School Student. So very excited to have our wonderful guests with us. Like I said, to help me learn, help our other guests learn, and just be here with us this evening. Looking forward.
So I hope we're ready to bring our guest on. So we have good evening, Karanveer, and good evening, Ring. Are we saying your name right, Karanveer? Is it Karanveer or Karanveer?
It's Karanveer.
Karanveer. We were totally off. I'm so sorry about that.
Please pardon me.
Karanveer. And I spelt it correct, I believe, this time. I'm so sorry. I'm so bad at
it. Okay.
I like doing 5 million things. So welcome, both of you. I do know Rubin. We've met before. Karanveer, we met actually yesterday, I think it was. Technically, and I'm so excited that we did. So we're going to begin with just a brief introduction from both of you. Can you tell us basically where you live and what you do? And also, if you're first generation, if you're not, if your family's been here for a while, just give us a little bit of a backstory. And either one of you can begin.
Rubin, you can go first.
Sure. I'll go first. Thank you. Thank you, Abir and Doug, for having me today. My name is Rubin Singh. I live in Maryland, right outside of Baltimore, and a product of Maryland. I would say I've lived here for almost my whole life. My parents, I am first generation. My parents did come here in the late 60s, so I really had the full experience. I work as a consultant in the nonprofit tech space. And I run my own consulting company called OneTenth Consulting. Outside of that, I also do some work serving in an advisory capacity for the Sikh Coalition, which is a national civil rights nonprofit.
Wonderful.
Hi, guys. My name is Karanveer Pannu, and thanks for the introduction. And I'm a current graduate student at Rutgers University Camden, studying, going for a master's in public administration. And my great-grandfather actually came here to study in 1917 at the University of Oregon. So my family's had kind of like a deep history here in the country. So I'm just trying to fill in some big shoes, but here I am.
That's awesome. So I asked you, Karanveer, earlier how to say welcome in Punjabi. So I have it scrolling. Can you please pronounce it for us? Yeah.
Yeah, it's
how do you say it? Jayanu.
Yep, you got it.
Okay, so Jayanu. There you go. Welcome. Thank you so much. All right. So that is great. So you gave us a good segue, Karanveer, because people don't know.
Right. And we talked, you all both alluded to some of the history of at least your families here. So next, trying to learn, we know the Sikh community has been a part of American society for generations. Could each of you tell us more about their deep roots in the United States and or in North America?
I can surely start, but I think Karanveer, with your family background, you may be able to speak more to it than I can. But I'll kick things off. Sikhs came to the United States a little over 100 years ago, actually North America, I should say, and really initially migrated to places like Karanveer's family, the Pacific Northwest, British Columbia and Canada, California. The climate in many ways is somewhat similar to that of Punjab, where Sikhs originate from in South Asia. And so a lot of the farming jobs, the lumber mills, the other sort of railroad workers, there was all kinds of types of industry that was available for Sikhs to work on during that time. And then really since then, Sikhs have sort of migrated throughout all of North America, throughout the whole country really, and have served in just so many different capacities. And my father came over when there was an influx, when the United States government was really looking to hire as many engineers and tech workers in the federal government. So that was sort of one of the first waves of migration that happened. And my father worked for the Department of Energy with the United States government for 40 years after that.
Wow.
Yeah, so Rubin touched on some good points. So Sikhs first arrived in this country in 1899 on Angel Island. And we actually found a picture of a Sikh soldier fighting in the U.S. Civil War in 1862. Wow. So that shows that we've been here well over 150 years. And most people, when they think of Sikhs and hate crimes, they relate 9/11. But in fact, the first recorded, I guess you can say, hate crime was in 1907 in Bellingham, Washington, where a group called the Asiatic Exclusion League, 400 to 500 white men attacked the homes and raided those homes of Sikh lumber workers in Bellingham, Washington. So we've kind of been dealing with this, I guess, rampant racism since we've arrived in the country. And media back in the day would refer to turban-wearing Sikhs as Hindus, as Hindoos, even though they full well knew that we were Sikhs with a distinct identity. But they would purposely relate us to a completely different religion. So that's kind of what we're dealing with, constant ignorance in this country.
So can you give us a little bit back on where Angel Island is, just for people who may not know, and the significance of Angel Island to the United States as well?
Rubin, did you want to touch on that?
I think you might be able to go.
Sure,
I'm going along.
So Angel Island, it's right near San Francisco Bay on the west coast. So that's kind of because the way they immigrated here to this country, they arrived on the west coast first. So that's why the largest concentrations of Sikhs is in California and Washington State. And since then, we've kind of spread out across the country. That's where we kind of started out.
Right.
So along those lines of migration, was there any event in particular that started, a significant number of migration of the Sikh community? Anything in particular happen?
Go ahead. There's a couple things. As I mentioned, I think there was the United States government was in the late 60s, early 70s looking to hire more tech workers from Asia, and South Asia in particular. So there was definitely one wave then. I would say that there was another wave in the mid 80s as there was turmoil in Punjab, and Sikhs were a marginalized community in India, and there was tension there that led to a real challenge there with the federal government. And so many Sikhs left looking for a better life in the mid 80s and coming here to the US. And then I think the probably most recent round is a lot to do with just the tech boom of the 2000s that just brought a lot of South Asians and Sikhs included as part of that. So those are sort of three of waves that I've been aware of.
Okay, thank you. So Rubin, I guess just to make sure I'm clear, so up to that point, like those points you brought up, you might actually see like spikes. If we were graphing this out, you might see spikes in the number of Sikh immigrants coming in at that point. And I guess like going back to like 1899 or earlier, it was maybe just a few folks coming in, and then you saw, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, you were. Those were the pioneers for sure before the 1900s.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Just wanted to touch on his point. When he was talking about the turmoil, he's referring to the genocide that occurred against the Sikh community in India. And that was around 1984. So that's when the government specifically targeted the Sikh community, and that's kind of what forced a lot of, I guess, survivors to get out of the country to basically like ensure the safety of not only their family but of also their identity. Because in this country we're not attacked for who we are, but over there it's a constant targeting of minorities, not just Sikhs but Muslims and anyone that doesn't fit the status quo.
Okay.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the clarifications. And please feel free to jump in and give us, because this is a rich learning experience for everybody. And we really, really appreciate it. And me as a historian, I'm loving all of it. So, and a little reference, Angel Island is what on the West Coast, what Ellis Island is on the East Coast in New York. So that was the gateway of people. A lot of people tend to think of Angel Island just for Chinese and Japanese immigrants. But thank you, Karanveer, for telling us about the Sikh community coming in from there. So our next question for you two is, what are 3 things, and it doesn't necessarily have to be 3 things, we just like to give out numbers, that we or our viewers should know about the Sikh faith and the Sikh community in general?
Yeah, I'll start off. I think, whenever I speak about the Sikh faith, I'm just like, all the questions tend to gravitate towards the physical appearance. And I appreciate you asking this question. If there's one thing that, I think I'd love for people to know, and it's also what inspires me the most, is Guru Nanak, our founder. He believed in one key principle, and that is of radical equality. Really believing in, and he was a social revolutionary, and any system, any structure that created inequity in society, he was there to challenge it and to fight against it. And really, in a nutshell, everything else, the physical appearance, the discipline that we have, the other things that we do and we look like, is really all to inspire us to live that message of equality and challenging those structures that create inequity. That's sort of that central component and central tenet of Sikhi that I wish more people knew about. Yeah. I'd say if there's a second thing, there's definitely that element of selfless service. And it may not sound like a big deal to say that we believe in giving our time, our money, our effort towards charity, towards causes, towards bettering the communities, bettering the world around us. But I say that to make the point that this is not there's many things that are unique to the Sikh experience, but this in my study is not. It's something that's shared with many religions. And so, or this idea of selfless service and giving back. And so I wish that more people knew that as something that links us together and and has us more in common than just necessarily focusing on the things that are different.
Right. I like that.
Yep. So yeah, going off of that, kind of what inspires me is that we have 3, central tenets of the Sikh faith, which are Kirt Karo, Nam Japo, Varn Shako. And what we were talking about, selfless service. So that's the idea of living your life to the best of your ability, living it honestly, an ethical life, and then using your earnings to give back to the community. So it's always centered around making the world around you better. And in order to do that, the founders of our faith give us a distinct identity, so others around us know who to come to for assistance and for help. So that's kind of what our unique physical identity reminds us to do, is to always look out for others and to always be at our best, because the first people that others are going to notice are the guys in turbans and beards, and women also that do wear turbans as well. But yeah, it's always centered around giving back to others. And then another point I would make is that we're the 5th largest religion in the world, and 99% of turban-wearing men in this country are the Sikh faith. They're not Muslims. They're of the Sikh faith. And the last thing I would say is that we're not a mixture or a blend of any other faith. We're a distinct, unique faith. While we do share similarities with other religions, it's a completely different, distinct identity and faith.
I'm glad you made that point, because a lot of people believe that Sikhism is a combination of Hinduism and Islam put together, and I guess that's a myth.
Right.
Okay.
It's and what perpetuates a lot of that is growing up as a in the school system. That's what the books tell me. That's what the dictionary would tell me. That's what the encyclopedias would tell me. Depending on what those are. Again, that's not sort of disrespect towards any other religions, but
Correct.
it is a unique. It has its own unique principles and unique style and discipline to it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Still to this day, kids are learning in textbooks that there's only one small paragraph about the Sikh religion, and it's usually all incorrect information.
Wow. Right. So does the selfless part, is that why you find Sikhs in all facets of American culture and society? They're in first responders, they're educators, they're everything. Like, for some people in some immigrant communities, they feel like they could only be in one particular realm. But I've seen Sikhs in all of it, and is that a reason why that they have been in the armed service and they do all that selfless act? Does that also go with whatever country or government you're living with at the time? It doesn't matter regardless where you are. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you're asking why we're so keen on getting into public service and helping out.
So that's part of one of the tenets.
Right. Yeah. So I'd just like to quote the Attorney General of New Jersey, Rubin, who's the first Sikh Attorney General, and I had the chance to intern for him. And a quote that he said was that our faith is kind of like a blueprint for public service. So that's kind of why we're so, I guess, interested and passionate about getting into these different roles and being in the eye of the public is to because we don't necessarily have to tell others about who we are. We can just show them by our actions. And that's how the Attorney General is raising awareness, is by getting into that position and then working with law enforcement agencies, working with really high-end individuals. And that's kind of how he raises awareness of his faith. So that's kind of why we, I guess, gravitate towards these different public service roles.
Got it. So it's more your actions more than just your words, everything that you're doing.
Yeah,
right, for me.
And it just maybe on the other side of the coin of that, I think I wouldn't say it's just for public service. It's also for activism in general. So people who are out on the streets, whether it's for housing rights, for healthcare, for Black Lives Matter, for whatever whatever there's. I think that the Sikh faith is a blueprint for activism in general as well. So it wouldn't be unlikely that you have Sikhs who are in the role in government and public service, but also on the front lines of movements for challenging those exact same institutions and such. So I think it's a blueprint in both ways.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah,
so, do you want to say something, Doug?
No. I was just saying. Again, I'm just fascinated. And one thing I would say, so I realize it's not just confined to those who are members of the Sikh community. So I'm thinking like the examples that Rubin gave, or even what Karanveer shared. But I love the fact that it's based in, I love this, the radical equality, right? So it's based in that, and then really looking to almost spread out and affect these various aspects of society. So, to Rubin's point about being the blueprint. So I appreciate those examples. Like I said, it's not just confined to, within that Sikh faith community, but I guess the society in general that you're looking to be an activist and advocate for change. Right?
Yeah. In fact, and thanks for bringing that up. In fact, one story, and probably my third thing that I'd say that I wish people knew about is the story of Guru Tegh Bahadur, who is our 9th Guru. So we have 10 enlighteners that sort of founded the faith and really took us to where we are today. And one of the powerful stories of his life and his martyrdom is he ended up giving his life to protect the rights of a community that was not the Sikh community. That was not his life. In fact, it was also a community that he didn't always agree with and principally was not fully aligned with in terms of their practices and way of life. But he also believed in standing up for the marginalized and willing to challenge the state on their behalf. And so that his ability to give his life for a community that wasn't his own, but he believed in that principle that people have the right to choose, people have the right to protest, and so on and so forth, is really powerful. And so I think that kind of is in line with the point that you make, is that what we fight for is not just Sikh rights. We fight for the rights of the marginalized and fight for the rights of equality for all.
Radical equality at its best.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yep. So I think we're gonna go to a video. Is that right? Before we get to the next question.
Yes, because unfortunately, both of you touched upon the fact that there are the stereotypes and people think you guys are Muslim, and it's ridiculous. And the fact that everybody just merges into one. So I want to show a quick video to our audience, which is an unfortunate event that happened a couple of years ago in Wisconsin, of the issues that your community still has to face. So we'll watch the video and then we'll ask our next question.
Let's get right to the latest on that Temple massacre in Wisconsin. Lots of new details coming in overnight. We have team coverage, starting with ABC's Alex Perez on the scene in Oak Creek. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning, George. We are learning much more about the gunman. Federal authorities may have had him in their files before the shooting. As a scarred community came together to heal overnight, police focused their investigation on this man, Wade Michael Page, an out-of-work Army veteran with links to neo-Nazi groups.
There's a balding male with glasses may have gone inside with a gun and there were shots fired.
Investigators tell ABC News Page was armed with a 9mm semi-automatic pistol, that he roamed the temple, opening fire randomly as those inside frantically ran for cover.
Need an ambulance. I do not see a shooter anywhere. I thought I heard shots. Can you confirm that?
Yet, in the midst of so much horror, heroes. 65-year-old Satwan Kaleka, the president of the temple, died trying to tackle Page, but managed to stab him with a butter knife.
My father went after that guy and tried to stop him and slow him down enough to let other people get to safety.
Lieutenant Brian Murphy remains in critical condition, ambushed by Page, shot 8 times as he tried to help another victim.
We have one officer shot. Subject with a gun, balding, white t-shirt, officer down.
Police say Page was killed by another officer after he fired on Murphy. On the gunman's body, police found 3 additional ammunition clips.
There is no doubt in my mind that the heroic actions of our police officers prevented an even greater tragedy.
Meantime, new details on the days leading up to the shooting. ABC News has learned Page purchased his gun legally July 28th, just 8 days before the shooting, at this gun shop in nearby West Allis, Wisconsin. Sources say he picked it up 2 days later.
If we did everything right, there's nothing I could do to change it.
The FBI says they had no direct warning Page was plotting to attack the temple, but at this point they say they're still trying to figure out what exactly they knew about him before the shooting. George?
Okay, Alex, thanks.
Ooh. So that is not uncommon, unfortunately. And like you said, Karanveer, ever since Sikh community stepped foot in this country, that's been an issue.
So, right, we do have our next question, and I'm sorry, I was looking. We do have a comment from one of our regulars, my man Joe. But Joe commented, it's so sad how it always seems to be ex-military, which speaks volumes to the handling of mental and emotional well-being or lack thereof when the troops come home. So that's an issue in of itself, and then you see how it has this horrible impact on the Sikh community in this case. So could you all explain to us how 9/11 affected the Sikh community?
I can start on it. I think it's interesting because that day I just like many, it's like every American watched the whole day unfold in complete terror. It was just horrifying what we sat there and all watched on TV or experienced, through our family or extended folks we know. I think what was unique for the Sikh experience was that, that day, as I was sort of trying to process everything myself, I went out to the grocery store, I went to the gym that night, and I was away traveling on business, and all of a sudden, I found myself getting stares. I found myself people making comments, and it didn't really hit me what was going on. I had to shift out of being a patriotic American and realize that I had to fear for my life, or not fear for my life, but look out for myself, because everyone was looking at me like I was that person on TV, or the images that they were seeing. So I think that was it was a bit of a reality call, a reality moment there. And it wasn't unlike a lot of what my parents faced in the late 70s with the tension in the Mideast, and how that was. And so I think, it affected Sikhs in many ways. There were several hate incidents that followed. Balbir Singh Sodhi, who was a gas station worker in Mesa, Arizona, was shot and killed. I think just the next day. The person who shot and killed him, his response was, yeah, I did it. I'm a patriot. And so I think there's many things that we can talk about that experience. I'm interested to hear Karanveer's experience also. But I think for me, if I look at what my parents experienced in the 70s, what I experienced in 2000, 2001, and sort of that backlash that we faced, it just kind of goes to show that, no matter how much I can consider myself an American, I don't really know any other way of life. It's what I've born into, and that even still, that the world around me seems to have a certain view of what an American looks like, and it doesn't look like me.
Mm-hmm.
And you're never American enough.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Indeed.
Yeah, I would offer that none of us are stereotypical Americans, right? None of us on this program right now. I would offer that.
Yes. Right. Karanveer, you weren't even born when 9/11 happened, correct? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's backlash that came after it, 20 some years after. So give us your
I can share a story actually.
Yeah.
So when 9/11 did take place, I was a little kid at the time, and I remember that everyone in our community was in their houses. They were afraid because they knew the minute they stepped out, they were going to get stares. They were going to get, as Rubin mentioned, they were going to get all these different types of looks. So my dad was kind of different. My dad was like, we're going to get out there. We're not going to be afraid of who we are. And he took my family, my mom, my brother was a baby at the time. I was about 2 years old. And we went to the nearest police station and we said, hey, listen, we live down the road. What can we do to help the community? Wow. And so they directed us to it was like a rally, a vigil to kind of bring everyone together and unite the community to kind of calm the fears and all these different issues that were going around at the time. So when we showed up at that vigil or that rally, my dad was getting death stares. Everyone was looking at us like they were about to kill us. Mm-hmm. And my mom was afraid. She was like, well, just turn around and go back. But my dad said, no, we're gonna go in. So we walk in, and they give my dad the mic to go up and speak to the audience. And after he spoke, he went down, and the same folks that were ready to kill us were in tears. They were emotional, and they gave my mom hugs. They were giving me high fives. And at that moment, that showed me that if we take the time to talk to people and let them know who we are, everything, all those negative stereotypes in their heads, those are all going to dissipate. Those are all going to go away. So it's kind of always challenging all these negative ideas in people's heads about who we are, about the bogeyman syndrome, as I like to call it. It's kind of what America is kind of based on, is otherizing people. So in order to challenge that, we have to kind of confront that and educate people. And any opportunity you get, you just have to get out there and let them know about who you are, regardless of where you come from.
That's very profound. I like it.
Right.
Karanveer.
And you answered the question, Karanveer, before I could ask. And I was going to ask, during this time for you and for Rubin, were you granted a platform? And even, I guess, sticking with that a little bit. And like you said, we know about this othering that's, especially now, seems to be at the center of, to me, undermining, what America can be, if you will. But what are your thoughts on, I guess, being asked to, and you're, here we have this program and this, we ask questions, but what if, I just, if I walked up to you, if you and I happen to be coworkers, or if we were sitting next to each other in a bus station, if I would strike a conversation and, try to get a better understanding of who you are, of who the Sikh community is that something you all welcome? Do you find it be intrusive? Just wanted to get a sense of that,
100%. I think we have to be open to conversation and dialogue, especially if the other person is trying to get to know who we are. And it's 100% okay to educate people, but what we don't do is forcibly try to convert them and proselytize. So that's kind of the distinct fine line. A lot of folks in the community, because of that issue of proselytizing people, they choose not to, I guess, educate. But it's totally fine to, if, like you said, if Doug wanted to ask me on a train or something about who I am, I'm gonna let you know. I'm gonna talk to you, and if you have any questions, I'm gonna openly answer them to the best of my ability.
Gotcha. Appreciate that. Yep.
Rubin?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, especially I think there's many things I've learned through the experiences of whether it was September 11th, whether it was or even the tragedy in Wisconsin with the shooting. I wouldn't consider myself the interfaith type or the one who likes to sit in those kind of meetings and sessions. I sort of lost interest in that kind of thing many years ago. But
I'm with you on that one, Rubin.
But I think it did kind of teach me that there are many people, many Sikhs who look like me, who maybe or they might be recent immigrants, or they may not be as fluent in English, and they wouldn't be able to express themselves or answer the questions as easy as I can. And I feel like that kind of is on me. So I need to make sure I take every opportunity I can to educate folks, to just engage, not even educate, to just engage in dialogue with people. It's funny. Doug, you mentioned about the othering, and I've had the opportunity to do some guest teaching at some local schools here in Maryland. And it started off, they asked me to come as a speaker to speak about the Sikh faith, but it's been several years now, and I come back just to talk about this idea of othering. And it's so funny because when I talk to the students who are like high school age kids, we start off talking about the faith, we talk about the tenets, and they're just so fascinated by seeing someone that they wouldn't expect to speak English and become and such. And then by the end of the conversation, they're like, okay, so who's your favorite rapper? And so it's like all of a sudden they just forgot that I'm this different person, and it's just dialogue.
I love it.
Know each other. And so that's more so than the educating. I love just being able to be in situations and spaces where people are not used to listening to someone like me, and looking at someone like me, and being able to have just genuine dialogue.
I love that.
Yeah, that's very rich. I think it's also, I mean, by default, I wear the hijab, so people automatically think you're going to, be that spokesperson or that token, as they call it. But it's almost, I don't want to say we put ourselves out there, but that's how people identify. They know automatically that I'm Muslim, regardless negative or positive, because of this. And for you two, unfortunately, they may get the mix up, and those who know you're Sikh. So I think it comes with the territory of, the badge that we wear that represents our religion or who we are. So I think it's kind of that positive burden that people sometimes have to carry with them. So, Karanveer, you were talking about your experience for 9/11, but you also have taken your lived experiences, and you are actually a published author. So you published Bullying of Sikh American Children Through the Eyes of a Sikh American High School Student, which I find fascinating. And I think, I have all these books I have to read, so now I have to add another one on our list. So can you please tell us about your book?
Sure. So this was a high school project that I wanted to complete before I graduated. And I wrote this my junior year of high school, and I published it at the beginning of my senior year. And
I'm sorry, hold on. I'm so impressed. That's very impressive. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, I cut you off, but very impressive. Go ahead.
Right. So my goal was to kind of help out the community, because before I wrote the book, I was traveling the country. I went to California, I went to Colorado, and I spoke with the local communities there to kind of get a feel for what was going on. And I heard stories of, I had kids in the Gurdwara, our place of prayer, come up to me in tears, and they were like, it's not just our peers bullying us, but it's our teachers as well. So you have educated adults currently picking on their students because of how they look. So that kind of frustrated me. So I went back and I made sure to get the book published. So it's kind of incorporating my own experiences, but also to create a tool for educators to allow them to realize who the students are, that they're going to be different, and to allow them to understand, get a better feel for who they are. And so I cover a variety of things in the book. It goes from our history in this country. It goes next to the turban, the unique identity, and then it goes to my experience as well. And then also I incorporate interviews with child psychiatrists to give a feel for kind of what the trauma victims of bullying go through on a regular basis, because it impacts you in a negative way if you're constantly told, hey, get out of this country, you don't belong here. And oftentimes kids don't want to share it with their parents. So it's kind of creating a resource for them as well. to let them know that, hey, they're not alone, that a kid in New Jersey also went through it. And so they know that they too can be proud of who they are and that they'll get through it because we're all in this together. So
that's
impressive.
That's amazing, because as an educator myself, Doug and I are both teachers. You know, we love to read books, but we also like to have books that give us solutions and give us ways of addressing things. And shameless plug, you can order on Amazon. If you go to our website for the Real Talk tab, there'll be a tab that gives you a link to his book. So we need to get educators more into this one as well. I think that's fascinating. Thank you so much for that, because I think it's a great idea. And when, you know, talking about this piece right here, educators and teachers bullying students, from my experience as well as an Arab American, I know the impact that has on students, even more than when they get bullied from their peers, because from their peers, people look at it as, you know, that's the stage of life. That's how kids are. I have a story of a friend of mine. We were talking about a teacher who was harassing students. I think it was in Texas. And this man is in his 40s right now. And he can still remember his teacher from elementary school who otherized him. You know, I grew up in Chicago, large Arab population, otherized him and the black students and took care of, you know, the white students. And till this day, he's scarred with that experience. So I could just imagine how kids are feeling, especially if they're coming in with that sense of identity. And kids come in and they're very proud. But then when you have adults doing this to students, I think that could be so much more damaging. But thank you for providing that resource. I think it's a very, very valuable piece.
Yeah, and Bear, to your point, I guess the way I look at it, you know, like last week we had Dominic and Jay Sean on. You had this love between, you know, this educator and his former student, and then to hear what Karanveer is describing, you know, these, as an educator, we have the potential to have such a great impact on our students. And I think very few of us probably, you could be forgettable to your students, but I think too often it's like a, you know, I talk about vectors. Like in my past life, I was an engineer and I dealt with, you know, vectors. So you got magnitude and direction. So you got this great magnitude as an educator. And then what direction are you taking? Are you taking a positive direction and uplifting that student, encouraging that student to follow their dreams? Or do you do what, you know, Karanveer just described to us? And you literally could, you know, Bettina Love called it spirit murder, right? You could scar a student, like you said, to where they never get over that. So I don't know, you might see my reaction when you mentioned that. That's to me, and we know what happens. But again, it's just truly sad to me because we know what an educator can be in a child's life, and to have that impact, and have that lasting impact is certainly sad. But Karanveer, thank you for documenting that. Thank you for telling your story. And as Veer said, it's another book for my reading list.
That's right. You know, we'll definitely put on there. Before we move on to our next question, also Rubin, that's how Rubin and I met. I believe we met before we did your something special about me, correct?
That's right.
Because I have a bad memory. I always tell people to tell the story of how we met because I don't remember. So where did you and I meet, Rubin?
It was actually a bullying workshop, working session.
That's right. Ironic. There you go. And then, Rubin, why don't you talk about the session that you invited my husband and I to come and attend, which I thought was fabulous. And we need more of this in our schools. Go ahead.
Yeah. And thank you so much for coming out. I mean, you know, as my kids are in school, my elder daughter's in middle school, my younger just finished elementary school. And, you know, as I started getting engaged in the diversity, equity, and inclusion committee, which I was very happy that there was such a space there in the school. But, you know, as I just started participating in a lot of the events, you know, one thing I noticed was a lot of the activities were geared around, you know, cultural shows. So dance, food. And while I appreciate that, and I think it's great to be exposed to different cultures, one of the things that I felt was kind of missing was just dialogue. Kind of the point that I raised earlier, like, sometimes I'll go to these events of culture night, and I look around and it's all people of color.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait a second, where's the whole DEI component to this? And so,
right.
So I sort of sat down with some of the others in the group, and they were super receptive and really enthusiastic and engaged to participate in some different programs. That was less about performing and showing and showing that look at our heritage, but really instead, celebrating all of us being different and what we can learn from each other. Especially people who you may not think are different. So wasn't it people of color or people of different religions, but it was also people who might have a learning disability, or somebody who has a different sort of family situation that might be unique to them. And we encourage the kids to come forth and really share about their experiences. So we call the night "What Makes Me Special."
Yes.
And really just get the kids out there and exploring themselves, what makes them different, what makes them unique. And in creating a night where we can just have dialogue, feel comfortable to share what makes us different, and what we're proud about, what we're worried about, what we're scared about, and really have everybody learn from each other in that capacity. So, and I was so thankful for Karanveer and her husband to come out and really share their experiences, and I learned a lot that night for sure.
Yeah, it was a great, and that was right when COVID started.
It was like,
everybody's like, right that week. And I'm just like, we're going. And of course, my husband, as usual, sits in the background. He doesn't want to say anything. I'm still trying to bring him on the show. So don't feel offended, Rubin. He's very behind the scenes type of guy. So, but yeah, no, that we had a great time, and, we're still going to connect and see how we can make it expand, because it's a wonderful thing where, again, you don't want to marginalize people, make them seem like, you always have to talk culture and your food, but get to the individualistic piece of what makes people special. And, I thought it was really, really, really great. So moving on.
Love that.
Speaking of.
Rubin, question for you then. So you're a board member of the Sikh Coalition. What is the role of the coalition? What does the coalition do?
Yeah. Immediately after September 11th, with the hate incident kind of hitting like a rapid pace, young Sikhs kind of pretty much came together and said, well, we got to do something. We got to organize. And that night, September 12th, 2001 is when the Sikh Coalition was founded. I was not involved until much later. I joined the board, and I spent 7 or 8 years on the board. I'm no longer on the board. I just kind of help out in an advisory capacity. But what started off as really just kind of crisis management at the time, really then turned into a resource that the community can really rely on for several different things. So there's several programs that the coalition does as a national civil rights, human rights organization, from community empowerment to equal opportunity issues, legal policy type of issues, education, providing education resources. So it's just really grown as a institution that can really help Sikhs, both who are newly migrated to the country, but also people who need resources who've been here for a very long time. But I think what I love about the Sikh Coalition is just their ability to partner with other organizations, because whether it's a Muslim organization, a Hindu organization, or pretty much anything, the ACLU or other civil rights organizations, we have power in our voices when we organize and we collect together. And so I think that's been one beautiful thing I've liked working with the Sikh Coalition, is their ability to partner with so many others to provide a louder, more amplified voice. So yeah, that's what the Sikh Coalition does, and doesn't just serve the needs of Sikhs, but really anybody, any community that may have had a struggle with their maybe religious articles of faith, or anything of the sort. The coalition's willing to help.
Okay, thank you, Rubin. I appreciate that. So it sounds like the coalition really embodies those tenets you talked about earlier too. But I guess as like a body that folks can recognize in carrying out some of the work the Sikhs believe into, like you said, into the greater community.
Yes, indeed.
Gotcha. All right, thank you. Appreciate that.
Sure.
So we spoke about Sikh Coalition, and now we have Karanveer's book that everybody has to run out and get. What other resources? Yes. So in addition, what other resources am I saying this right? Yes. I'm sorry. Can we gain a better understanding of the Sikh community? So what are some of the resources maybe? Are there people that people can reach out to? What is it that we can use to help people understand the Sikh community better?
Sure. So there's another organization I'm going to plug. It's called the American Sikh Council. which is the national organization of Gurdwaras across this country. So a Gurdwara signs on to be a member of the council. So it's kind of like an umbrella organization representative of the Sikh community in America. And the ASC, the American Sikh Council, is working on five initiatives right now, which is educating the educators, the anti-bullying initiative, raising awareness of the genocide, and publishing books, and getting into scouting, the Boy Scouts of America, and getting Sikh kids into scouting is another initiative of the council. So through these initiatives, the council is trying to kind of not only raise awareness of the Sikh community for others, but to also inspire and empower our own Sikh children, whether they be young boys or young girls. And that's kind of what the American Sikh Council is doing. And on their website, which is americansikhcouncil.org, they have free books available for adults. They have free books available for kids. And then they also have several brochures on various questions a non-Sikh might have about the religion. And those are all available on that website. So that's kind of where you can find any question you have. You can go on that website and they'll be happy to help you.
Oh, that's gold right there. When you said educators and guys, I'm like, my ears like, those are what we need, because like I said earlier, like these are things I'm trying to segue also in the work that we do. Rubin, did you want to add?
No, I think just, there are lots of resources on the sikhcoalition.org website as well. In particular with education, there's some sample, even sometimes I talk to other Sikh families and they're like, well, we want to, our kid's teacher has invited us to come to the school and speak about our religion, and we don't really know where to go. So even for Sikh families, there's resources there, or like we're not sure how to explain things, or how do we explain things in a way that makes sense. So there are resources even for Sikhs on how to present to others, as well as resources for educators as well. Key points, videos, and other things that talking points that you might want to cover. So, and then I somehow, reaching out to the coalition, that's often how there's a network or speakers bureau of other people, in local communities who can then, do some face-to-face engagement. Oftentimes I get invited to speak at different places because of requests that came through the coalition's website. So I think that's another resource to check out, sikhcoalition.org.
That's wonderful. I'm actually going to add it. I have at the end, I'll add it to our website, where I did add the Sikh Coalition. There's also an IDM, which is an inquiry design model that was made, and it goes all 3 grade levels, elementary, middle, and high school, about what Sikhism is all about. And it has some educator lesson plans, which I think is good. It was also on the website, your organizations and your books, but I'll definitely add American Sikh Council to that so people can reference it as well. And we have a link at the end where people can go to our website to get all that. So this is, I love it. I love it. I'm so happy I was able to bring both of you. We have a shout out as to the person who connected us also with Karanveer, like last minute. So wait on that. So gentlemen, I mean, it's already like 8:00 and I think I feel like we're just at the tip of the iceberg. I mean, I could sit and talk to you two forever, but we'll definitely connect. But we always like to leave our audience with a little parting gift. That's Doug's little specialty. So gentlemen.
One more segment. And I'm going to tell you, it never fails.
No.
So Rubin, right? Rubin foreshadowed this. At 7:30, he said someone asked him who's his favorite rapper. So,
well, that's what Joe said. Who's your favorite rapper?
And then right. So Joe says, that's why I knew it was 7:30, because Joe laughs, because Joe knows the routine.
Yep.
So, to my friends, what we do, we honor hip hop around here. Hip hop has a huge influence on my life, and something that Abir and I talk about amongst other topics. So what we do, we call 4x4. We look at the 4 pillars of hip hop. So, DJing, breaking or b-boying, b-girling, graffiti artist, and of course the MC.
I knew I got that wrong. I'm sorry.
I was about to say, what are you doing to me? But he's trying to test me. But okay, so if you look at the 4 pillars, what we want to do is, as between the two of you, could you name one artist from each of those 4 pillars?
So I'm a country guy, so I'm not going to be the best for this.
Okay.
From Jersey? Okay. That surprised me. There you go.
So one in each of these.
If you can.
Well, DJ Run for sure, or for sure.
That's the second time.
I like that. I like that. So Rubin, you want to put DJ Run in DJ or MC? I like this.
That could go either way.
Okay.
I love it. I love it.
But
Love it.
I was saving MC for Tupac. I'm sorry.
Oh, good choice.
Look, you got a beer smiling now.
Yes. Good choice.
Graffiti artist and BY. I'm not too sure. I couldn't mention any names there. Although I grew up on all that, but I couldn't mention any specifics though.
All right, perfect. So
That's
thank you for participating, and Karanveer, so you aren't off the hook. So if you come back, you know what we do over here. And then I'll be ready with a country artist too.
Appreciate it.
Can you give us a country artist that you do like? Who do you like, Karanveer?
So my top are Luke Bryan, and then Jared Bentley, another good one, and those are my top 2 right now. But I have like a country playlist that I just cycle through, and yeah.
I always say I don't like country, but I lie because they formerly known as the Dixie Chicks, but they're the Chicks now.
It's just a stereotype. People just relate it to the bad country, and then they're like, "Oh, country's bad in general." But that's
right. And you think it's from the South, and being from like the city, Jersey, East Coast, you don't think of country that way. But that's fascinating. So before we let you go, we would like to share some of our guest comments. Sada, who was a guest on our show, who works with Reimagining Migration. It's great to learn from you about your community's roots. We all have a migration story, which is true. And our friend Keith Lewis, fascinating. This is feeding my spirituality. That's what we do on this show. So we would like to give a shout out to our boy, Japneet Suri. Whoop, whoop. Yeah. Now,
bringing us together.
Right? Yes, he brought us together, but he is also what I call one of the most amazing hustlers. Okay, so if you ever need a ride, he could give you one of the most fly rides out there. So if you want to contact him, there's his website. Thank you, Japneet, for connecting us to Karanveer, and we have Rubin on the show, so we appreciate that as well. Again, we thank you too. Let's see, what's our last comment? Yep. Thank you.
Thanking and talking about next week. We want to thank our guests. This has been great. I told Abir I was looking forward to being educated, and it was that and much more. Definitely, to Rubin's point, love the dialogue. Karanveer, thank you all both for what you brought to us this evening, and it's been a wonderful time. So thank you for being here.
No, thank you so much for creating this platform. I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, and there's our boy Japneet. Hello, Japneet. Yeah, there you go. And then last, Trisha is also a friend, said it's funny, I had a student that was of the Sikh faith, and he liked Luke too. So
there we go. See,
there might be something there. So thank you very much, gentlemen. Peace and love to your families, and we will definitely be in touch.
That's good.
Thank you.
Right,
thank you. Have a good night.
Take care.
Bye.
You too.
That was great. That was great.
That was awesome.
So that was a really good 4x4. Go you. That 4x4 is really good.
You had your doubts. I told you.
I always have my doubts. You know me. I'm always that guy, as they say. But what's it called? What's I going to say? Now it can't be really a surprise if people watch our show and they come on as guests. We can't really have that. but people do surprise us. So we have. Thank you, Diane, for being and watching us.
Yes, always thank you to our we call them viewers, listeners, guests, friends,
groupies. No, joking.
You're trying to clear the list out. She said it, I didn't.
Okay. So next week we have the amazing Sosan Jabir, who is Dr. Sosan Jabir, on being Palestinian American. She is an educator, activist, scholar, dedicated social justice for Palestine and anywhere there is injustice. And also one of the founders, my other core 4, one of the founders of the Arab American Educators Network. So she will be on. And what's fascinating about Sosan as well is the fact that she comes from a town that had a massacre in Palestine at the time, and her grandfather is one of the only few, I think there's only 3 surviving members. So we're hoping she would be able to have an interview with him that she would be able to share with us. So hopefully that would be something that we can get a little treat from our band. And
and I'm looking forward to it. I saw her on a virtual PD, and I think that's when You and I talked, and you told me you were very familiar with. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And just a few more. We have a little bit of time left. A few more comments. So Jill is embracing being groupie, and Jill, we appreciate you. Joe bringing up yes, we are running out of B-boys. So I gotta do some research. You notice, like Joe tried to give me one episode. He's like, what's your top 5? But see, Joe, I'm the host. Like you said, I don't,
That's right, Joe.
They want to hear from me. They want to hear from you, Joe. They want to hear from you. They want to hear from the guest. And
that's right.
And the good people, the good people out there. But he's right. We do have to make sure where B-boys are coming up. I think, we've definitely, he's right. Joe's been with us. We got more graffiti artists than B-boys, and they're really, so I'm gonna see if I've got some ideas to amplify that a little bit more. So again, really appreciate everyone who's spending this time with us. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you, Takwa. I appreciate that as well. So so tune in for next week, because we're excited for next week. For me being Palestinian American, I think it's exciting to also, because a lot of the times, there's a lot of othering that goes on. Oh, Keith is telling us top 5, not possible. I need some artists. Keith is throwing it out there for you, Doug. They're really putting you to the test now. They're really putting you to the test.
So I'll just leave this, and people, I put on my man of mystery, and aura. So tune in next week, enjoy the show, and then at the end we preview the next week. The Joes out there and the Keiths out there, we might have a little something for you to scratch the itch that you all are putting into the space. So love my hip hop heads. You all know how much I appreciate you. Keith and I, we do this on a regular, and Joe and I, we've been kicking this around too. So I hear you. I hear you.
Doug loves hip hop so much, is now the last show of every month is dedicated to hip hop, going with the theme of the month. So I'm looking forward to that too.
You brought it up, right? And we stay with the theme. So we will have a hip hop and immigration theme. Keith, let's go. Yep. And can I don't know if I can do this. I have this T-shirt on.
Yeah, stand up. Show us what you got.
So this is. Can you all see? This is.
Oh, I can't see.
Kind of hard to see, but this is my Uncle Jerry.
Hey, Uncle Jerry, celebrating life and loving memory. Okay.
So rest in peace, Uncle Jerry Murray. Rest in peace. I'm wearing a T-shirt because Uncle Jerry, he passed away on May 24th, battling illness about a year. He would be 90 years old in August, and I know I can only pray to be, to see 90. So he was 89 years old and passed away out of a long illness, but he was a veteran of the military. So we talked about the military at the top of our show, and he was buried in Arlington National Cemetery yesterday.
Oh, wow.
And his son actually gave me this shirt. So really appreciate it. Rest in power. So I said, I'm gonna wear that shirt tomorrow on the show. So I knew you all don't really see the shirt, but I wanted to display the shirt, and appreciate you, Joe. And just like I said, rest in power, rest in peace to Uncle Jerry, to all those that we've lost. Want to just pay respects and all that. So glad I got a shirt, and I knew I'd wear it right away. So thank you for the time and the display. Of course.
Yep. Miss you too, K. Rob. Good luck. Best of luck on your retirement. She gave us, I think 30 plus years of social studies in Baltimore County.
Oh,
thank
you. Time in. Thank you.
We taught together at Parkville High. I'm sorry. And yes, rest in power to your uncle.
Yes, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
So we are going to call it quits. Always remember to do what, Doug? They should what? Oh,
you should always go to the YouTube channel. And we really appreciate those who subscribed, and we ask that more folks subscribe, and definitely spread the word. Tell a friend. If you know how it goes. If you like us, tell a friend. If you have some issues or some concerns, let us know, because we do want to make sure that you're enjoying our conversation as much as we are. But please spread the word. If you do enjoy what you're seeing here and listening to, please do subscribe to our channel.
Yep. All right. So have a good night, everybody. We're going to fade out with our outro video.
Oh, do we have credits?
Yeah, we do. We have that last one.
Did we? Is the credit in there?
No, not yet. Remember, he said he didn't want the credit until later.
Oh, and then okay, gotcha.
We're being mysterious, but you'll find out later. But
it will all be revealed.
There's a friend that we want to give a shout out to, but he's being humble, so no credits until it's finally done. In due time. But anyway, good night, everybody, and you know how to find us. All right, peace.
All right, good night, peace.